Welcome to You're Making It Worse. I'm Eliot Glazer.
I'm Brent Sullivan.
And I'm H. Alan Scott.
We're here. We're queer.
Meh. Textual healing.
So in case you're not entirely up to speed on Steve O's professional antics, the Jackass star was planning a bit where he, a cisgender man, would undergo a breast augmentation in order to provoke reactions from other men. He explained in a recent interview with Consequence of Sound. That sounds like a blog that Eliot reads. Consequence of Sound.
It's a great music blog.
That he was planning to, quote, ride a pink Vespa around at the Sturgis motorcycle rally completely in disguise where nobody could tell who he was. On the day of the scheduled surgery, the day the surgery was supposed to happen, he said, I was checking out at the supermarket and the person ringing up my groceries was evidently transgender. And it struck me as a sign from the universe. So I asked the transgender person if I could run something by them, and I had a conversation with this person that had a profound impact on me. They described how they weren't allowed to use the bathroom at their place of work, and that there were like 28 states in the country that would arrest them for having an ID that said female on it, he recalled, adding, it was a pretty heartbreaking conversation, the level of oppression that was described. Steve-O said that the conversation made him realize his pranks are not, quote, not all fun and games, and that the bit could be seen as celebrating violence against trans people by attempting to get laughs out of potentially violent responses. So he said, just to clarify, he said, I would have considered it better footage if I was beaten up at the motorcycle rally. And just having that mentality was very flawed because ultimately it would be an exercise in celebrating violence against trans people. At least it would have been interpreted that way by some. And when it was put to me that way, I thought, wow, maybe I missed the mark on that.
I love this.
I will say
unexpected wisdom and warmth from Steve-O.
I will certainly say to strike an optimistic note, I do think it's really important. I'll be honest with you. I'm a little. I have a conspiracy theorist angle that this is not real.
Totally, 1000%.
Alan might be getting to in a minute. Go ahead, Alan.
The journalist in me is fully wondering. I want to see the sources. I want to see where this is
grocery
documented.
Store, what
I want to
line.
know. There are so many things I want to know about this story because it does feel like a Trump-esque story in that you just say the thing and then it becomes. And now, yes, the message behind it I support, meaning that somebody recognized that their actions may have an adverse impact on a community, even though it wasn't intended. It may have an adverse impact on a community that they either have always cared about or now suddenly care about because of this issue. Either way, thank God they care about it. And that I support. I support the end result. I don't like necessarily, I will say anyone listening to this, that if you feel like you have clocked a trans person, it is not your place to then only talk with that person about trans issues or to only use that to fetishize that person as only being good for that conversation.
Run an idea by you.
Yes, that to me, that bothered me a little bit too, even though I like the sentiment of him coming to a good place.
I
just don't like that part of it either.
I think to me, it just boils down to and yes, I understand sometimes regardless of how accurate, of whether the story is completely accurate, you might condense things to say, it was the day of the surgery. I went out to get a quick salad and the grocery store attendant was a transgender person. But that's the other part that I'm like, well, this can't possibly be real.
Yeah.
The day of the surgery.
The day of the surgery.
And you're not supposed to be eating or drinking anything. Yet he's at a grocery store.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to laugh. It's like, it's so silly to imagine getting like this sort of heartwarming advice or a heartwarming anecdote from somebody who's known for like stapling his balls to the wall.
Yeah.
Wait, have you guys ever,
in a porta potty?
A young version of me who just wanted to see penis once found
was Jackass homoerotic?
Yeah, I found it very homoerotic in a way that even now, having watched the film that came out a couple years ago, it was like the most recent one, whatever it was, I watched it being like, You know what? I'm still turned on to this.
No, Steve
Yeah,
was
still very-
First of all, I remember this because out of that whole Jackass crew, he was actually kind of built. He was in like
Yeah.
good shape, and he doesn't have an unattractive face. I don't.
There's another naked guy in his group, more naked than Steve-O, who's hotter than Steve-O. In my
Bam?
opinion. Is that his name? And he had the long hair.
Bam was
Like,
cute.
I
Bam
like-
had a really cute
That
smile.
wasn't
Yeah.
that long hair wasn't that was
No,
a different
yeah,
guy, but
no.
Bam Margera was very. I was into.
Was
him.
he
Bam
had
was
brown
cute.
hair? Wait, what's his name? Bam.
Bam, but that's not. You're not. I know who you're thinking of. He was sort of like a long haired guy. Bam wasn't that long hair. He
Yeah.
was just very cute.
I'll find
I'm
his
surprised
name.
you don't know Bam Margera. That's like he's like kind of like MTV famous for our generation. This is like the first time you haven't known something pop culture wise, Alan.
I didn't really follow Jackass unless they had penis. That was the only time I
Yeah.
ever followed Jackass, is if they showed nudity. So me not knowing their names, trust me, not a surprise.
You know, the one thing that I think is so ironic about all of this is that if he was going to ride around a pink Vespa at a motorcycle rally in disguise, couldn't he just wear a breastplate?
Yeah, I'm surprised he was willing to go to that degree, and that also might contribute to the fact that the story isn't real. I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh,
But Chris Pontius is the one that I thought was
Is
hot.
he the one
Chris
that died in a car
Pontius.
accident?
No.
Okay.
He did not. But yeah, Chris Pontius
Those
is the one
guys
that I
have
thought was
all
hot.
really struggled with their lives since that
They?
show. Yeah.
Have
Yeah,
they really?
Bam specifically.
Bam
Yeah.
has had a rough
What happened with
go.
Bam? What happened to Bam?
Oh, just
I
like
think just
substance abuse
drinking
issues, I
and-
think.
yeah.
And I think he lost all of his money. And I do still remember, like, I forget exactly when it was, but I remember someone, and this certainly would have been pre-YouTube, someone talking about watching, it must have been the first episode of Jackass, and how Bam Margera was like, today I'm just going to beat my dad's ass all day. And then there's like this footage of Bam Margera. His dad was like this big burly dude, and Bam would just wail on his dad like his back, like he would like punch his
I
back.
think I
and
remember
stuff.
I remember that too.
Yeah,
I remember that.
That was
Yeah.
probably their most. It might have been one of their biggest clips ever. It was just like teenage boy like
You know, it's
dreamscape.
It's sort of like it's also wild that show became, because it's not just like it just happened. It wasn't like America's Funniest Home Videos. It was like I think it probably came out of the whole world of these like underground skater videos. Like skaters would just make videos, and I had a friend in college who did that. As sort of around the same time Jackass was getting big, and I was like, "Oh, this is a whole world." And somebody brilliant at MTV figured out a way to put it on TV, and it became a cultural phenomenon.
I was just so pissed because I never really even wanted it. It's not like I found him particularly attractive. I just always wanted to see Johnny Knoxville's dick, and he never showed it.
Yeah,
he never
he's
showed his
also
dick.
he is also handsome.
Oh, very handsome.
I want to see his dick.
Well, okay. Maybe you could
Still
send him a
time.
letter. Send him a letter.
There still is time, but now it's a different dick. I don't
Reach
know.
out to his agent.
I will.
Not even joking.
We are joined today by someone that I'm quite literally obsessed with on one of my favorite shows right now that I am obsessing over. Michael Cyril Creighton. Hello, Michael.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm so glad to be here.
Okay, so I just need to say, if anyone listening doesn't know the favorite show I'm talking about, it's Only Murders in the Building on Hulu, Disney Plus, wherever you're watching it. It is so good. Like, you must be, I mean, it's in its, what, fourth season now? Fourth.
Yeah. We just
Fourth
got picked
season.
up for a fifth.
Which is, I
Yeah.
mean, insane. What does it feel like to be on such, like, a hugely successful show?
It's great. I mean, obviously, I have no complaints whatsoever. I feel really lucky. I thought it was originally going to be 2 episodes. That was it. And to be there and now be there 4 seasons later feels pretty fucking great. And sorry to curse. I don't know why I did.
Please. It's a
We welcome it.
No, but,
shit.
Yeah. Oh, good. Damn it. But it feels pretty good to be. It feels really great to be there. Still be there. You know, because they could have in season 1. I got COVID between my first and second episode, and they very easily could have just been like, "Nope, we're writing him out."
Yeah.
But they waited till I got better. They filmed me separately because it was very. It was like right in the beginning of like before vaccines, so we were being extra safe. So they filmed my scene all day with my stand-in and Selena and Steve, and then I filmed it by myself at the end of the day for 45 minutes, and I thought that was it. I thought that was my last episode, and then the fact that they kept bringing him back is so great.
What was that feeling like when you got COVID? Because everyone in this business knows that, like, sometimes these things, success can be fleeting. And like you were saying, it was only going to be 2 episodes. You get COVID pre-vax before your second episode. Were you, like, frenzied with panic, thinking that, like, this,
I was,
you know?
It was terrifying. It was the worst because it was that time where you wake up at 5 a.m. to like 7 phone calls and 3 emails and a bunch of different people trying to reach out to me. And it was when things were very shrouded in secrecy. You know, you couldn't say someone had COVID, but they weren't on set, you know.
Yeah.
So I was worried. I was scared that I got that I could have gotten someone sick. I was scared that I was going to lose the job. But the showrunner and the production, I give them so much credit. I'll never forget it. They were like, well, we're going to wait till you get better. We know you have to move on to another job. The thing was, I was moving on to do Dexter New Blood right after. So I didn't have any extra time. So there was like one day where I was negative and they could have shot me. And they're like, we're going to wait till you're better. We're going to do it, but we're going to do it separately to be extra safe. And they didn't have to do that. So I was really grateful.
Yeah.
But then it terrified me. You know, I always, for that year, was so scared of getting sick.
Yeah.
And then when I saw the episode and when it came out, my husband talks about this all the time. Like, the first time I saw that episode that I shot separately, I was so devastated because I was like, well, I can tell we're not in the same room and I could have done better. And, you know, was very, very hard on myself. He said I disappeared into the bathroom because I was doing a different podcast and I was putting on some green moisturizer. And I disappeared into the bathroom for a pretty long time. And he was like, this is the first time I was ever worried about you. Because I was like, I'm devastated. You know that character that Hannah Pilkis does, like the woman on the verge of a breakdown?
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was like. I was like, I'm devastated. You can tell I'm not in the same room. That was my one chance to act with them. And then, of course, you know,
Here we are.
As most things are, I worried too much, and then they brought me back in season 2 and then season 3.
Your character,
it's been great.
Your character is so, like I mean, I love so many of the characters on the show, but your character in particular, A, because I love you and I know, you know, known you for a long time, but also B, is just like, you're just this kind of adorable queer weirdo cat loving freak, and you have this sort of almost delusions of grandeur that is just, it's just so funny to watch how, knowing you and knowing your comedy and knowing how you work, to watch how you navigate a character like this and to see the character grow over the years to even this season. It's really exciting.
Yeah, he was never, like in the breakdown, he was never described as gay, but I was like, yikes. Like, you know, obviously, like when you're like, he's an uptight persnickety, like, you know, like all the words that we know, like not this one, but usually it's like, he's officious.
Yeah.
He's officious. Oh, okay, he's gay. He's an alcoholic. He's gay. Okay, like, you know, like all of the words they throw around.
Yeah.
He's a sad, lonely, no, but, that's a different role, but it is like he's a sad, lonely alcoholic. Oh, he's good. You know, they don't want to put the word in there, but no, I love how queer he is, and I love how I loved him so much. He's so extreme and so weirdly like wants to fit in so deeply, but also has so many boundaries. You know, and he's, really, really vulnerable, but very, very angry. And it feels like that's all stuff, like all like sort of histrionic stuff that I can throw in there. I understand him, and he's like sort of an extreme version of myself.
Yeah. How much of you, like, because with a character like that, like you were saying, how there wasn't much about him to begin with. How much of do you think the writers, and maybe even you yourself, are putting into the character? Because it feels very much in line with like stuff that I've been watching you do for years, you know?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of both. You know, in that first season, I just sort of played with him shifting very quickly. Mm-hmm. You know, the shifts in anger and the shifts in emotion weren't in the text, but they were in the text. You know what I mean? Yeah. In the text. Wow, I sound like such an actor.
You're such an actor.
But I think that I feel like this does not happen all the time, as we all know. Like, I feel very lucky that the writers and specifically the showrunner have picked up on something that's like inherently me and sort of what I think makes me special as a performer, and have shined a light on it as opposed to asked me to hide it. You know what I mean? So I think they know even more so than I do sometimes what I'm capable of and what is in my skill set. So I think it's a mixture of both.
Does it feel like a different project than you've ever worked? Because you've worked in, I mean, television for a long time, and theater and movies. We can talk about that too. Two best pictures. Yes. But just with the ubiquity of the show, the fact that it's so massively popular and also seems to be like a real generation bridger between Steve Martin and Martin Short and Selena Gomez. Do you find that you've been received in a different way with a show this huge?
I don't know. I am definitely, I definitely think it has a bigger reach than anything I've done as far as people recognizing me on the street or stopping me and things like that. But like as far as how it feels, like surprisingly, I feel like it's the biggest, show that I've done, but also the coziest, easiest job I've ever had in a way. Like it is really like you hear all the actors and everybody say it, and it's I can say it because I'm like mostly an observer there. It's true. They are the nicest people in the world. It is so low key. It is the nicest job in New York. You just go to work. You try to get out by 6 because, Steve wants to see his family, and the crew is incredible. It really is like sort of one of those dream things that I'm trying to savor every moment of, because I know swear to God, every single time we do a podcast, there's a siren right outside the window.
It's fine.
But yeah, so it feels weirdly, it's like it is the most pleasant on-camera job I've ever had, and it feels like it shouldn't be in a way because there's so many stars. Like you cannot walk anywhere, and it keeps being more and more.
That was going to be my next question, which is like, we've all, obviously, the four of us have all worked with, famous people in the past. But, I mean, Steve Martin, Martin Short are really sort of like a different, I guess,
Meryl Streep,
Selena Gomez, but they're really a different echelon. Like, what is it like kind of working with someone who's been like world famous for 50, 60 years, like Steve Martin, for instance?
I think it's really normal right now. It feels really normal now, but I think what happened was I just in the first year or two, I just sort of disassociated. Like there is a moment in every scene especially when you're in a scene with the three of them, with Selena, Marty, and Steve, and it's like you across the three of them, there is a part of myself that goes to another part of my head, because if I think about who I'm standing in front of, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So I just try not to think about it, and they don't. You know what it is? Like I've realized this being around so many famous people over the past 10 years or so. Famous people are very normal. Like it's the way people treat them that makes it weird. So it's really just the three of us. It's like the four of us in a room most of the time, and Steve is doing Wordle, and Marty is texting, and Selena's reading a book, and it's very chill. Yeah. So I kind of see a different side of them. And I don't know. I am really lucky with the show. There's not been one bad egg from top to bottom.
But also, I mean, I feel like you and I have have this in common, at least in that, like, well, we all have this in common, that you are a homosexual. And so when you see someone homosexual, and when you see, for example, Meryl Streep walk on set, the asshole must quiver a little bit. There must be a moment of gay panic that happens within you. And I mean, so of all of those guest stars, and the show has so many, Paul Rudd, Nathan Lane, I mean, like the list goes on. It's massive. Like of all of the guest stars, which one made your asshole quiver the most?
Good question.
That's a really good question.
Can we measure that? Is there a way to measure that?
Can we measure?
Like a Richter scale.
Well, I will say, like, I had met Meryl Streep before when I did The Post, and it was really quivery at that point. Yeah. Quivered beyond belief. This time I was very nervous when she walked in the room, but she's so disarming and kind that she walked up to me and said, "I'm such a fan." And I was like, okay, well now I'm now just melted and in love. But I would say, who made me nervous was Zach Galifianakis, and then he ended up being the nicest guy, but I didn't know what he was going to be like. And he was really, really sweet and normal. But I was nervous. I was nervous to meet him for the first time.
Wow.
Has Alec Baldwin been on that show?
No.
On the show yet?
No.
I mean, it would just make sense.
The laugh says more than anything.
I mean,
No,
he's like
I
chaotic,
know.
but he and Marty and Steve are like.
Oh, I just did something with my phone. I'm sorry.
I mean,
Now it's recording
we
everything
can,
I say. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
we can hear you.
You're good.
We can hear you. Very much on brand with your
We'll get to
character.
this later, but
You're going to sulk
I'm
off
fully
into the bathroom.
90 years old right now. I'm doing things that just make no sense as far as technology. Just a side note, the other day I was trying to figure out how to use Zelle because I wanted to buy these tacos and they were only cash or Zelle. And I didn't know I had Zelle in my banking account. And then I entered my account number, my debit card number into a website because I Googled download Zelle.
Oh no!
Now there's fraud. Now
Oh my God.
No. By the way, it's funny you say that because... sorry.
Oh, sorry, no, but then the bank called me. I'm like, I'm sorry, you have to speak to my business manager. And he was like, and he's like, well, what's your mother's maiden name? And I was like, I'm not telling you, what's your phone number? And then he was like, well, if you are worried about security, you shouldn't ask her my number. And I was like, all right, Robert. He was so nasty.
That's amazing.
Anyway, I'm doing stupid things like that. I apologize.
It's fine. Wait, Brent, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, Alan is a Zelle ho, and he's always making us pay him via Zelle, and I do find it so counterintuitive. It's not...
It goes directly into your bank account. There's no 3-day waiting period like on Venmo. It makes no sense why you'd be angry at Zelle.
No, I'm not angry at you, sir. But I do find, like, I have to go to Chase to open up Zelle, and then, like, sometimes it takes a while to get the notification, and I'm confused. I'm not a huge fan of Zelle, and Zelle does not.
I didn't even know it was something that lived in bank accounts.
Yeah, that's
really...
the thing. I've only used it through my bank, and I find it just seems like a little like creaky or something. The interface feels kind of dusty, whereas Venmo is
I like getting
so
my money
quick.
Immediately. Thank you.
Isn't it amazing to think how long Venmo and Zelle? Well, I don't know about Zelle, but how long Venmo has been in our lives now?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like I remember very clearly remember the subway campaign in New York that was like a cute guy, and it was just a strange.
No.
It was just like a guy, and it was like, what is is that man's name Venmo? And it was such a smart campaign. It was just one man.
And when
this?
that man walks onto Elliot's next set, his asshole will quiver. Wait,
exactly.
Michael,
Mr. Venmo.
I do want to ask you. So, like, I mean, I've of course followed you for a long time, but I got so excited a couple years ago when you were in, and you were such a great part in Spotlight. And then the film went on to win Best Picture, and then of course last year you were in another picture that was nominated for Best Picture, which is American Fiction.
That was great, by the way. I just saw that recently, and
good.
Isn't it such a good movie?
Such a good movie. You are so funny, and like I wrote on Younger and Miriam Shore, who was your co-star in American Fiction. You guys you were just hilarious with each other. It was great.
It was so fun. It was like literally 4 hours in Boston.
I bet. Yeah.
And we did it, and it was done. It was one of those parts that like you get the audition. I auditioned for it, and you get the audition, and everybody's like, it might be too small. I don't know. You don't stress about it. It's not a large role. I don't know if you think you can pop or not. All the things that are said to make sure you think about it. And I read the script, and I was like, this is the best script I've read in years, probably since Spotlight. And the part, was in like one scene, but it was so funny and so ridiculous. Like, what a ridiculous man he was, but so real.
Awesome.
Wasn't Spotlight also in Boston? That was set in Boston too, right?
Spotlight was in Boston too, yeah.
Wow, so you should just be in Boston movies and get nominated for Best Picture bunch.
I know. The Post was also nominated for Best Picture, but that was DC.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot about the Post.
Really disappointing.
I mean, that gets me to like you come from the sort of New York comedy scene. You do the things. We all have the sort of the same friends back in the sort of the 2010s era, and to go from that to being in 3 films that have been nominated for Best Picture and to working on a show like Hulu, like how does it feel to sort of, I don't know, be at this place where like you're literally one of the more recognizable character actors working right now?
It's surprising, honestly. I mean, like also very right. It feels weird to say, but it's like I feel so grateful to be here and that this is happening and that this is how everything's gone. But also, I feel like it's about time, in a way, because I and I don't mean that to sound like overly confident, because I'm not. I'm both very confident and very insecure. But it does feel like I feel it feels like a good amount of luck and just sort of the right place at the right time, and then but surprising. That's where I started the sentence. It feels surprising because it feels surprising because I thought I was going to do theater the whole thought I was going to be doing downtown theater, and I was like, maybe one day I'll be on Broadway. And TV and film sort of just happened because I sort of taught myself how to act on camera when I did my web series, and then stuff came from that. So yeah, it was not where I thought I was going to be, but I'm so happy to be here.
Do you want to go back to doing more theater at some point?
Do you want to go back to doing more web series? What's your thought on that?
Yeah, is Jack in the Box coming back?
I do. I mean, I honestly do miss doing web series in the time where a web series could look like shit. Like where you could just really be about writing and acting and an idea, and didn't have to look like TV, and you didn't have to answer to anybody, and you could just do it yourself without taking any input and make your own mistakes. I miss those days. It feels like those days are sort of gone, and I really loved that time period when everybody was making stuff, and some of it was good, some of it was bad, but everybody was trying, and it sort of opened so many doors for so many people, and it didn't have to look super expensive. But I would do theater again. I would love to do theater again, but it would have to be like I just would want it to be the right play with the right people. I love the experience of a great ensemble and a great cast, so that would be a big part of it.
So
do
Cats,
you ever?
You're thinking
I was going
Cats.
to.
Yeah,
Jesus,
Cats.
Brent,
Yeah,
you took the
I
words
like
out of my
Cats.
mouth.
Sorry,
oh my
Eliot. I know,
God!
it's your big joke.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Who would you play in Cats, Michael?
Come from away.
Did you see Cats? The new Cats?
I didn't, and I'm kicking myself for it. And the other day I was like, I should get tickets for that, and so I was like, well, it closed, and I was like, okay. But when something's
Now and forever, not so
that,
much.
Not really. When something's that amazing, I feel like it's going to pop up again, and I'll see it.
Maybe not. I'm talking to the wrong crew with these two. I'll be with you.
I saw it.
Yes.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it was entertaining, confusing. They really tried for something. They really tried, and hats off to that. Hats off.
Hats off. I will say, I would take Eliot's suggestion on many, many things. A Broadway musical is not one I would take as suggestion.
I have pretty classic taste. But there's just some new theater that it just doesn't sit right with me.
You know what I saw today? I saw today a matinee of my husband's friend from childhood is a scientist, and she was in town, and she's like, would you want to see this musical with me? And we're like, sure. She never asked us to see theater, and it was a musical about antibiotic resistant bacteria. And now I'm terrified. I mean, it's like there's a song about it's in the water, it's in your food. Like it was scary.
That sounds kind of
like,
great.
We're gonna run out of that penicillin.
See, that's the thing. Cynicism will never actually pervade musical theater. Plays are deeply cynical, and that's what makes them so riveting. The art, the medium of the musical is inherently so goofy that I outside of Sondheim, I can't really imagine musicals that actually force you to contend with human existence in certain ways when you're just like, yeah, you're just singing and talk, like you're singing and talking. It's
excuse me, Rent. It talked about AIDS.
I like Rent.
Can I also just say we glossed over the most important thing that Michael just said, which is talking about the existential threat from antibiotic-resistant bacteria, and that's why you shouldn't buy these alcohol washes that help breed this bacteria. You're not supposed to use regular soap. You don't need bacterial killing soap when you wash your hands.
Wow.
I didn't know I had two scientist friends.
Well, yeah. No, but it's actually something I thought about a lot in my life. Yeah. It's a big deal.
Well, I learned
it is. It's a big deal.
It is. No, well, I learned. Well, what I was there were all these scientists there and all these doctors, because the show also had an ensemble, this is brilliant. They had an ensemble of healthcare workers that sort of sang and performed, and they come in week by week. It wasn't bad. I'm not saying the show was bad at all. What was cool was that the theater was completely full, and it's like so hard to have a full theater off Broadway right now because they have all these doctors and nurses that are in the show that don't perform, and all their friends came to see it. So there were all these doctors and nurses around, and I felt the need to tell like everybody. I was like, when I take antibiotics, I take every single dose at the same time every single day, because it was like the big thing in the musical was take it all. Don't take it till it gets rid of the symptoms. Take it till you're done.
God.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow,
Oh my
that sounds like a
God.
terrifying musical.
It was Scottish too. It was all about. It was.
Oh my God.
You're just making it worse.
Oh my God.
Did they wear kilts while they were talking about dying from drinking water?
No. It was really well done, I have to say.
Oh, so funny.
I guess maybe the guy who discovered penicillin was, maybe he wasn't Scottish, but the actor was, and his name was Alexander Fleming, and he warned us 70 years ago or longer. No, I guess we've had penicillin longer than 70
I feel like
years.
this could be a musical in like an upcoming season of Only Murders in the Building.
Right.
I feel like we just found a new musical for the show.
The real
Michael and I
murder is
will do our
bacteria.
own. I was going to say Michael and I will do our own podcast offshoot of this, Alan, and talk about the threat of
I'm sure Michael is so excited to do
antibiotic
that.
bacterial resistance.
His character is more excited than the actual Michael would be to do that. Michael,
Brent, are you in New York or are you in LA?
You're in LA. Yeah.
No, we can't make that musical. It's different time zones.
Yeah. We can make that podcast work, my friend.
Yeah,
we
he'll
can
make it
that
work. He'll make it work.
We're making it work right now.
Yeah,
That's right.
Making it work while making it work.
Yeah.
Michael, thank you so much for stopping by today. We really appreciate it. Where can people find you on the internet?
Just on Instagram. And I don't have any other account anywhere but Instagram, and I guess Threads, which is MCC is nauseous. I don't know how to change the name. They won't let me. That's what it is. I tried. They won't let me.
Oh, so funny.
I've looked up every other option, but that's it. Thank you so much.
And another thing.
Now, would you guys? I will say
You've been dying to know. Eliot, you've been dying to know.
Well, let me start by saying, I think in the past couple of years, I've witnessed men, straight and gay and everything in between, but a lot of what seems like straight men growing out ironically silly haircuts, like growing their hair out to a sort of mullet, but not sort of indie sleaze version, which was like that was ironic, but it was aggressive. This feels more like a goof, I think, where you see a lot of like shags or not a full mullet, like a shag, a little bit of a rat tail, a sort of like it's sort of like they're going ugly on purpose.
Yeah.
And I'm fascinated by it because I am into it, and it follows the whole era of the man bun. You know? We haven't gone back to full like regular ass ponytails yet on men, like early '90s, but. You know, I thought the man bun was so attractive. I love a man bun.
Wow.
And the sort of shaggy, silly mullet of it all. Like, I want to not like it, but I do. And for some reason, I love a rat tail. You never see a rat tail,
Eliot.
but I love a rat tail.
Man bun is fine. Rat tail.
You don't see rat tails so much anymore. I had a rat tail when I was a kid, like in the early '90s. Yeah.
I would be into it now, though. And if a guy was like, I guess I'm just thinking of like,
well,
you would be into a French braided rat tail and back, Eliot. You would.
French braided? No, it's like a little rat tail. It's like a.
Well, no. See, when I hear rat tail, I don't think like a little bit of a point. I just have that naturally. I think of that the tail grows 3 haircuts long and it isn't touched. And it's French braided sometimes. Trust me.
No, that's like Dog the Bounty
Hunter. From Michigan. Like, I've seen plenty of rat tails in my life.
I mean, that's what I had when I was a kid, was that I would grow out that back hair and just like have it be like a pointy little tail.
Would you ever?
I don't think I ever braided it.
Would you wear the?
I have.
Worn
these?
Do you find them attractive?
I've had my hair long enough for a top knot or whatever it's called. What do they call
man bun?
I literally use what women would use, top knot. And I also have had a mullet, but oftentimes because it was practical for wigs. So like, you know, when you're putting on a wig, the lace is at a certain place, and you either have to glue down your hair, because I have a man's hairline. You either have to you have to glue down. It's so jarring. It's so loud. It's so loud.
Ears blow out.
Wow.
I don't want to miss my moment.
But I have to glue down the sides of my hair, and it's annoying. So oftentimes I would just shave my hair, and because of that, I would just have a mullet. But I even have had a mullet just for fun too. But now I glue down my hair because I'm sick of shaving it off.
Very conservative about my hair. I've always liked short hair in every person
The longest
I've ever been attracted
you
to.
did have a little bit of like curls in the early days when we knew you.
My hair, when I first moved to New York and throughout my entire childhood, was a mushroom top. Mushroom cut, and
really.
and on top it was like maybe 2 inches or something.
Why don't you grow it out a little bit? I would like that.
I don't like it. I don't like wavy hair. I always wanted straight hair. I always wanted to kind of like, I had this classmate named Blake, who of course I was madly in love with, and he had the kind of hair you could run your hands through it and it would all fall perfectly symmetrically again. And I had this like knotted thatch of like just disgusting knots of hair. I did not like my wavy
disgusting hair. Knots of hair. You had
but you
curly hair.
You haven't seen my nasty knots.
I want to see
so
pictures.
I've
Next time you're
always-
home, send pictures of the nasty knots.
Oh yeah, all right, I'll do
Please
that.
do. Please do. Please do. I mean,
I'm
Elliot,
sure
why
you'd
don't you?
probably
You have
argue it's
you
not
have the
nasty,
ability
but-
to grow out your hair, but you don't usually. So why would you?
I tried
Here's
to
the
do the man.
bouffant.
I tried to do a man bun, but it just like I don't know. It didn't take, and my hair, because it moves in different directions. I couldn't. I guess I could try growing out a mullet, but I don't know. I feel like it's a little.
You should. You would look good
beneath
with a
me,
mullet. No, you
age-wise.
beneath you? No.
No, not beneath me. Just like too young.
No, what are you talking about? No, that's bullshit. We live in LA. You can do anything you want. Like, I think you should do. I think you would look good with a mullet. I actually like that idea a lot. You already walk around with crop tops and rope sandals.
He does. He wears belly shirts to weddings.
A mullet is not gonna like make you look young. The crop top makes you look young.
No, like I'm trying too hard.
Like, the crop top makes you look like you're trying too hard. The hair won't. I'm telling you.
Can I tell you?
My
Many
crop
years
tops
ago,
are fine.
They're
no,
fine. I have no
we're-
problem
we're
with them.
teasing-
I'm just
we're not
saying,
saying
if
they're
anything
not
is
great.
making you look young, it is a crop
Yeah.
top.
Yeah. So many years ago, there was a trainer at the LA Fitness I used to go to in Hollywood that I was obsessed with. He was just so cute, and he had a man bun. And these trainers, they come and they go. They're the longest the one will be there at a certain branch will be like 6 weeks or something.
Yeah.
And he was gone for a couple weeks, and I was so into him that I actually asked the woman at the front. I was like, "Where that one trainer used to kind of stand right here? Where did he go?" And she goes, "I don't know who you mean." I'm like, "Oh, he had a man bun. He was the trainer with a man bun." She goes, "Oh, what?" I was like, "A man bun. It's like that thing in back." And she had no idea what I was
Wow.
talking about.
No,
And
she's
I'm
an
like,
idiot
I'm pretty
then.
sure this is like
Yeah.
pretty common
Very common
Yeah.
shit,
nomenclature.
nomenclature. So but it still strikes me as interesting.
I've been talking about this recently because I hate my gray hair. So I definitely love growing my hair out when I can, although it becomes really hard to manage because then like
Sure.
I tend to have hair breaking off a lot. Like I tend to it just becomes really a lot. But
Yeah.
I really want to go lighter, and I want to like dye my hair in certain parts that it's like blonde and light brown, so that when the gray comes in, it mixes with the blonde and it doesn't look so jarring. Because right now with my hair, the gray just looks gray. You know what I mean? It just
Never
like
noticed gray in your hair, but yeah.
well, that's because I color it, so you never will notice it.
Oh, God.
Like
I always
I make
forget
sure
that,
that no one notices it. But it's
Yeah.
very ever since chemo, my hair went really gray. Like it I get a lot of gray, and in the years, obviously, it's gotten worse because that's what happens when we age. Except you would know by looking at me, would you? And so I'm thinking of coloring it so that I there's like season 3 Carrie Bradshaw is my inspiration where she has like undercut where it's darker under and then lighter on top in parts, and that's kind of what I'm going for.
Oh, well, there you go. I thought about going to Turkey and getting those hair plugs.
You don't need
I thought
it.
about that
Where would
recently.
you get hair plugs? You don't need hair plugs.
Excuse me, Mr. Receding Hairline right here.
But if you do go to Turkey, I will gladly go with you for a facelift if you're buying. I will gladly. Can we just make it a? Can we get a
Sure.
sponsorship for the
Frank comes
podcast?
back
Sure.
Wait,
with a
hairline
hairline
down
what
here.
if we did a
And Alan's
sponsorship
like-
for the podcast where Bryn does the hair? Elliot, what kind of plastic surgery would you get? Name something. You got to name something.
Face grind. How do you
Oh, brother.
squeeze a
It's
face?
gotta be
No such thing
complicated.
exists.
It's gotta be complicated.
No such thing exists. He wants to grind the bones of his face.
He wants
In
to
a
get
vice.
his jaw.
In a vice.
He wants to get something shaved down. You want to get the
My
bones in
jaw
your you shave
reshaped.
down.
He
Yes.
wants Botox
Yeah.
in his pussy.
I want my jaw reshaped, crushed into two pieces, and then reshaped.
Oh my god!
I know what I
How
want.
dare you?
What would your aunt say?
What would your Aunt Ramona say about something she heard on today's show?
I tuned out after you mentioned your asshole quivering too Chris. Too Chris.
I think you were talking about mine.
I
Oh
think
no, you're talking about Mike. I'm confusing different segments. Oh my god.
Yeah. That's all right.
Yeah. My Aunt Joanne would say, I like Only Murders in the Building, but I don't see one Jew in the cast.
That is surprising.
For a New York show? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
How about Aunt Anne?
And I think we all know what makes my butthole quiver. Chocolate.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Join our Patreon. Good night and
Good luck.
Good luck.
It's like, how did we end up a gay
How did
podcast
this
ends with
become
a Walter
Good night.
Cronkite sign off?
Wait, what? It's not even Walter Cronkite. Who is it? It's
No.
what's his name? Good night and good luck.
Yeah, that fucking movie. I can't remember either.
Well,
Michael-
well, the
Michael-
movie was George Clooney, but Good night and good luck. It's Edward R. Murrow.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
There you go. You're welcome.
David Strathairn, right?
Yeah, you played him.
I don't know.
I love that movie.